What's going on, everyone? Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of the Ducks Dish podcast. I'm your host, Max Torres, with Scoop Duck on 3, coming to you on Thursday, August 7th, 2025. Really excited to have another episode for you guys as Oregon rapidly approaches the season opener against Montana State on August 30th. Not rolling solo, got a special guest on the show. It's a good friend of mine and a former Duck tight end. It is none other than George Wrighster. George, how are you?
What up? What up, man? I'm doing all right. Hey, just in case my mouth looks weird, I did not have a stroke. There's nothing going on. I had some dental work done, and there's still a little numbness in there, but the brain is working.
The brain's working, so we're good. You're your sharp, usual self, man. It's been a while since I had you on. I want to say I brought you on when I was still in Eugene. I don't even remember how long it was, but it was forever ago. So much has happened since then. We got a brand new season on our hands here. I'm super stoked to get back to the high school season. I know we were just chatting it up about that before we hit record here. But we got to talk about the Ducks, man, because we're heading into year 4 under Dan Lanning. The Ducks are looking to defend that Big Ten crown and, maybe even go a step further here. So we're kind of just freeballing it today, but there's plenty of fun stuff to talk about. We kind of brainstormed a couple ideas here. The first thing I want to start with, George, and I think it's the main thing that has me excited for this year's Oregon squad, is it kind of feels like this big transition period, or like a ushering in a new wave of talent. Those are kind of the phrases that I've been using in my writing over at Scoop Duck lately. And that's because we have so many departures from last year's squad and 3 top 10 recruiting classes for the Ducks to work with.
Yeah, see, this is good, right? This feels like the next evolution in Oregon football. And some people don't always notice those types of inflection points where obviously there was a big inflection point where Helfrich gets fired and then you hire Willie Taggart. Huge inflection point because there had been so much continuity and you literally changed the way things have been done for a very long time. Another inflection point is right now where, well, there were some other ones in between, but the one now is where you're not relying on the transfer portal for everything, right? That you are now having homegrown talent be your frontline guys. That way you're not, Trayshawn Holden, Evan Stewart, some of the other guys that have come through that have been transfers on the offensive end and the skill position side. Now you're rocking with guys for the most part that you recruited. And on the defensive side as well, rocking with guys that you recruited. And that's the difference. Like, that's what sustainability looks like, is where you're Ohio State, you win the national championship, they return one more starter than the Ducks, and you're still expected to be one of the top 5 teams in college football. And that's where Oregon is right now. If they can turn this inflection point of rocking with homegrown talent, that is going to destroy a lot of the narratives that people have. Oh, Oregon just goes to the transfer portal. Don't go there. All they're going to do is recruit over you with transfers and this and that. And Dan has talked about being able to use the transfer portal to just plug holes here and there where you might have some younger guys, or maybe some of your recruits haven't panned out or they're not ready yet. And you're essentially building a farm system. And he is getting that farm system the way every single year. Come up. And now you're going to see a lot more guys that, that you were excited about it in those recruiting classes.
That's part of what makes it so cool is seeing them take that next step, both as a program and as individual players. I mean, I'm looking at these press emails that we're getting. Are like, all right, every morning I'll usually wake up when there's practice. This is who we're getting. This is, what time to be ready for them, all that stuff. And, yesterday it was Ifeoma Badegwu and Jamari Johnson. He's been in the program, but Jamari is a guy they recruited coming out of Inglewood. You and I both know that. We covered him. And then he ended up at Louisville. So again, finishing second isn't always the worst thing in the world
Yep.
when it comes to recruiting. And then today, I think we're supposed to have Kamar Matudi and Dejan Riggs. So those are two other guys that we haven't seen a whole lot of. I'm more interested to see what happens with Matudi and kind of what he has to say, because he's another guy from SoCal
He looks good
that
getting
I
off the
covered.
bus, dude. I got a chance to spend some time with him early in the summer when the Ducks brought some of the, football, volleyball, track, all their athletes down to LA to do this podcasting media summit thing, and I was one of the speakers for it. So I got a chance to spend some time with Kamar, and he's a smart kid. He looks good getting off the bus. I'm actually excited to see him get a chance to play some this year, because a lot of people, they get excited about these recruiting classes and they're looking at the freshmen. You got USC people talking about, oh my God, we got the #1 class in the nation. Well, that ain't going to save you in 2025 because if you have, 5, 6, 7 true freshmen playing, that means your team sucks.
Yeah, you have no other option at that point.
Yeah, that means you got holes all over the place. Now, if you have a special player come in, like a Decorian Moore, a Jeremiah Smith, a Colin Simmons down at Texas, or Dylan Stewart over at South Carolina, if you have that sort of guy come in, yeah, those are outliers. But if you have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 freshmen playing significant snaps, your team is not going to win a lot of games. And that's where the development has to happen. And you have to be able to retain your roster. And that's the thing I love what Dan has done, is that last year, what did they take? 19 recruits?
In the 25 class?
Yeah.
I'm going to look it up right now, but that sounds about right. I'll let you know when I get it.
Yeah. And then in this class,
18.
18?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So, and then if you have another, 18 to 22 in this class, those are numbers that are reasonable and sustainable. USC has 32 commits right now. What the hell are you going to do with 32 commits? I mean, if you really think about it, what are you going to do with 32 people in a recruiting class? Because so many of them are going to hit the transfer portal. And some of them are going to hit the portal that you don't really want to hit the portal. So it puts an onus on recruiting the right guys and having guys that are going to be willing to, sit for a year or two and, and not just wait their turn, but take their turn.
I like that. Take their turn, because I think there's a couple guys that are in that position now, right? If you're looking at someone like a Decorian Moore, for example, or Ifeoma Obadegwu, who we just talked about. He's a second-year guy, but I'm 99% sure he redshirted last season. But still, we're just talking about the youth and kind of how coaches and staffs go about managing that. So I think that could be a good segue into a broader point that we can kind of frame this show around, is just expectations for Oregon in the 2025 season, because you brought in this awesome recruiting class again. I think we're going to see a handful of those guys hit the field in some form or fashion, maybe not starters outside of Decorian Moore.
I want to bring that up while you're talking.
Sure.
Brandon Finney's another name to watch.
Oh, dude, Brandon Finney looked huge in one of those last pictures that I saw.
Yeah.
I don't have my monitor connected, but I could.
He's a kid that you may see get on the field as a freshman, as a true freshman, and play significant snaps.
Yeah, I could definitely see it happening. And I had heard, a couple months ago from one of the sources that I was talking to that Finney could be someone to watch there. But especially at defensive back, like if you're a defensive back playing early at Oregon, I think that says a whole heck of a lot about your ability, because it's not a Thomas Graham situation. I feel like I always go back to that, because we were just talking about true freshmen having to play. When Thomas Graham was playing as a true freshman, sure, he was good. I mean, he ended up becoming an NFL guy, but they were playing him because they didn't have any other options. And they're like, hey, you're the best that we got, so good luck.
Good luck and God bless. Yeah. Because him and who was it?
Demo
Amador. Yeah, they played a lot. as a freshman. So I'm actually very excited about this secondary as well.
Yeah. So we'll get into some specific position groups, I think, throughout the show, or maybe that's like the first one we tackle. But I just kind of want to talk about framing expectations, setting expectations for Oregon this year. They're going to play 12 regular season games, and I think that the ones that everyone kind of has circled are the Penn State game, the USC game, and then one I'm hearing more and more about lately is like the Iowa game, going out
Yes.
to Iowa for the first time. That won't be easy. And then Wisconsin is a team that almost got the Ducks last year. So what are your kind of expectations for Oregon this year? I mean, we can get into record if you want, or like ballpark range, whatever you want.
All right. So my expectation for the Ducks this year is to make the college football playoff. Whatever that looks like should be okay, because we have to divorce ourselves from the old school thinking of, oh man, we got to go undefeated. What did undefeated get us last year? Got us, yes, number one ranking, go to the Rose Bowl. We didn't play well in the Rose Bowl, but so the undefeated season does matter. But with the way that the college football playoff is, and the buys and everything else, you have to be playing your best football toward the end of the season. So you can't be worried about whether or not you are, whether or not your record is 10-2 or 11-1 or 12-0, because that can't matter. It literally has to be, the goal has to be to get into the tournament. And then once you get into the tournament, you obviously want to win the tournament. And if you got a chip in a chair, that means that you have the opportunity. So I think that needs to be the expectation, that yes, you're breaking in a new quarterback, young wide receivers. You could drop the Penn State game. It could happen. Or you could drop a silly game like at Rutgers or at Iowa. You just want to make sure that you finish around that 10-2 mark, and that you're playing your best football at the end of the season, which is the optimal part of it. But the thing I do like this year, I love the way the schedule is set up. Love the way the schedule is set up comparatively to last year. So you go Montana State, Oklahoma State, Northwestern, Oregon State, and then Penn State. Okay, so you play 5 games and then you get a bye. Versus last year, how many games they play? Like 10 games straight? Something.
Yeah, or it was 8 or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I
it
think.
was a lot. And this year now they get another bye after the Wisconsin game before they go to Iowa. So those things set up for the team to be fresher, because that Wisconsin game last year, I thought that was a tough game because of the environment. It obviously, Camp Randall Stadium is amazing. Their fans are great. Luke Fickell's a good coach. It was that the team was tired. They were tired at that point in time. And this year, the way the schedule sets up, you shouldn't have those types of moments like you had in the Wisconsin game.
Yeah, I think that that's definitely one of the big picture, thoughts here, is that the Ducks have a very favorable schedule. And to your one of your early points, like how important it is to play your best football at the end of the year, that clearly wasn't the case. And I don't think you just have to look at the Rose Bowl to see that. I mean, they were sweating out that Big Ten title game against Penn State. That defensive line just didn't look like what we'd seen for a majority of the year. So, I mean, yeah, like that schedule wore on them, and it's not hard to see why. I mean, that would be hard for any team. And I don't say that to take away from what they did, but like that was just a really hard path that they had.
Yeah, and you got to look at the college football playoff setup to begin with. It, for the teams that get buys, it's actually a tougher road, because you're playing a team that played the week prior. And it's going to be a similar situation this year, where the teams that get the buys are going to have over 20 days off. 25 for the Ducks last year, they were off. And they played in the Big Ten championship game. So 25 days off. And then you got to go play a football game against a team that played less than 2 weeks prior, like 10 days prior. So that's a tough setup and a tough road all by itself. because that's not what you're normally accustomed to. You're not off for damn near a month and then have to come back and play your best, because I had talked to players on the team last year and they were like, yo, we are practicing hard. We are ready. And then when the game shows up, Ohio State's playing at a different speed. And the same thing with Georgia. Texas was playing at a different speed than Georgia was in their semifinal game. Arizona State, they got no, I'm sorry. It was Texas, Arizona State. And who did Georgia play in the first round of
Notre
the playoff?
Dame.
Yeah. Notre Dame was playing at a different speed because they had already played Indiana. So all of those teams that had the buys lost, and they started out terrible in the first half. So that means that coaches, if you do get a bye, you are going to have to figure out some sort of different practice schedule or some sort of way to get your team ready to go in the first half than your traditional way that you would normally approach a bowl game.
Yeah, and I think just with back to your point about the expectations, I like the way that you laid it out. I think making the playoff is a very reasonable and realistic expectation, because you're putting your chips in on Lanning and the coaching staff, and
Yeah.
then the guys that they've been recruiting for these past couple of years. So I think that's kind of where I'm at. In the ballpark of 10 wins certainly seems like a good mark for them to shoot for. And it doesn't so much matter what your record is as long as you get to the playoff. Because once you get to the
Yes.
playoff, it's kind of like we were saying, all bets are off. So I feel like that's a safe expectation to set for Oregon this year. But you do have to acknowledge some of the factors that are at play here, right? You're breaking in a new starting quarterback, young wide receiver core, like you mentioned, entirely new secondary. Some guys return that have seen some snaps, but no start from a year ago. And then you also have that offensive line that is going to be replacing 4 starters as well.
Yeah, and but they are super high on this offensive line. They believe that this is the best offensive line of starters that they've had since Dan's been there.
Well,
Like
yeah,
they are very excited about this offensive line. And that's honestly what was the struggle at the beginning of last year.
hmm
If like last year, I thought the offensive line was they ended up doing a pretty good job. Um, we didn't have the explosive running game like we had, because Jordan James is a good running back. He's not a special running back. And so I believe that you upgraded with Mekhi Hughes coming over from Tulane in terms of home run ability. You'll see more Bucky Irving type play in terms of now mind you, they're two separate backs, but
hmm
you're going to see more like tackles broken, because last year you saw a lot of like foot trips, hit the ground like, oh man, I almost got it, and it never almost got it. and with Bucky, if you saw that, the next one was going to be, it was going to be got it. So I do believe you're going to see a lot more of that out of the running back room this year between Mekhi, you got Whittington, and then after that, it's going to be questionable, because I think actually Jordan Davidson is probably gonna be the goal line back. That's my prediction.
Okay. I'm for it. I'm for it.
Yeah, he's a little fire hydrant, boy.
6 foot 236 on the roster. But
Yeah,
Lanning was like, he said the other day, he was like, we put out what we want to put out. It's not always the most accurate. Those are for you guys, is what he was saying. That was kind of funny. But that's big, man. 6 foot 236.
yeah, and you have Riggs and the kid that they recruited
Lamar and
this
De'Ara Hill.
um
Oh, Jay Harris. God, that running back room is crazy loaded.
no. Hill.
Yeah, De'Ara Hill from Illinois.
Yeah. He's doing a good job in camp right now.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be excited about that room. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's so much of a question aside from the number 3 back, which, I mean, how much of a luxury is that? I think that
Yes.
that's a good spot to be in.
Will it be Riggs? Will it be Hill? I mean, we saw some flashes out of Riggs last year. Or will, the what's the you just said his name, the kid that transferred in.
Jay Harris.
Yeah. Or could it be Jay Harris? I mean, it is a luxurious position to be in when you're not saying, "Oh my God, I hope our starter don't go down," and you're just praying.
Yeah, I mean it's a position where the rich get richer every year. It feels like in Oregon's case, and they had both Mackay and Noah land on the Doak Walker Award watch list. So that shows you how highly the rest of the national media holds this Oregon running back room. I'm quite frankly, I'm surprised Jalen Lamar came back, and he had a really good spring game. So that's another guy for Rashad Samples to work with. One of the questions I wanted to ask you, George, just I don't know if you were ever in a situation that was similar to what this Oregon offensive line has. I mean, obviously the transfer portal wasn't really a thing,
Yeah.
but you talk about how high the expectations are for the Oregon offensive line, but that's not a foregone conclusion, right? You can have all the talent in the world. If
Oh,
those
for
guys
sure.
can't get on the same page, they can't get their timing down, they can't communicate, be in the right place at the right time. This whole offense can go backwards in a hurry. So, just what do you think is going to be key to them ultimately gelling? And do you think it's going to be a better situation than maybe what we saw at the beginning of last season?
I definitely think it should be a better situation because we're last year, Betford, he was expected to be a starter and then he got hurt, I think, in the preseason, right?
Yeah, I think it was fall camp.
Yeah. And this year you're looking at, you have between Pregnon, Worlds, and then and Bedford, you got like 100 starts, 100+ starts. And so a lot of it is going to have to do with communication and continuity, but they've had all spring to practice together. They've had fall camp together. So when you have veteran guys who are, working toward a common goal and their communication is good, they are well coached, their chances of success are higher. But like you said, you don't know until they step on the field because when I've had a chance to talk to a lot of these head coaches in private, doing the interviews on Unafraid show and all that, one of the questions that I asked them in private is, how did Florida State happen last year? How do you go 13-0 and come back in 2-10? And every coach was like, dude, that's honestly the scariest thing in the whole world right now. And this is why you don't want to be so heavy in the transfer portal business, because if you are so heavy in the transfer portal business, you're going to have seasons like that where the team doesn't gel, they don't mesh, all of that stuff. And it might not be 2-10, but it might be 7-5, 8-4 when you could be 10-2.
Yeah, so you gotta have that continuity to some degree, and along the offensive line, I think the Ducks do have a bit of that with Bedford coming back after being
Yep.
injured pretty much all of last year. I feel like he's not really getting talked about at all in the offensive line discussion because people are so focused on the transfers, and I can understand why. But then you also have Poncho coming back to man the middle. Like, if
Yep.
there's one position that you want to have a returning starter at along their O line,
It's center.
I would think it's center.
Yep.
And then you have Dave Iuli and Kavika Rogers, who both played a little bit. And then maybe Janoris Wilson is a guy who can take that next step. So I think you'd ideally like to have maybe a healthy mix of some returners and some transfers. But I would think that we're on the same page when we say that most of the starters will probably be transfers. But I think we see some returners like Iuli in that rotation.
Oh yeah. And here's the thing I want people to be prepared for. In those first 3 games, really 4 games when you include the Northwestern game, you're going to see a lot of different combinations at wideout, DB, offensive line, because running back, you're not going to have somebody. Mackay's not going to get 25 touches a game in the first 4 games. You might as well forget about it. Their roster is situated to keep people healthy. Their roster is situated the way they are deep enough to where they can try guys out, give them opportunities without sacrificing a win in a football game. So the whole point is to prepare your team for the tough part of your schedule and figure out who your guys are when you go to Happy Valley, who the guys that you believe should be taking the most snaps, because the rotation is going to shrink when you get to Happy Valley. But then also, you're going to find out who is man and who is mouse when you get in one of the loudest environments and one of the most hostile environments in college football. You're going to find out who's who and what's what at that point in time.
Yeah, that's a growing up moment. There's gonna be maybe there's gonna be some welcome to college football moments for some of these young guys who haven't gotten a whole lot of snaps just yet in their career. So I'm super excited for that one. George, the one more topic I want to get into, and we'll see where it takes us. But I wanted to tee it up for you. If you had to choose maybe one, two position groups that you're the most excited about, intrigued about, concerned about, wherever you want to take it. What do you want to dive into?
Quarterback, man. Quarterback. Because you don't win anything without a quarterback. And my belief in the situation with Dante Moore and Austin Novosad is this. I believe that because I'm normally a subscriber of quarterback math is if you have two quarterbacks and you have no quarterbacks, that 1 + 1 = 0. However, I have evolved my quarterback thinking over the years because there are some times where you have two dudes who are both capable, not just capable starters, but guys who can excel. So you had Dante, who was over at UCLA. He did some really nice things at UCLA. He did. Like when you watch the film, there are throws that were made that you're like, Lord have mercy, that's special. But then there's also the meltdown at the end of the season. Now, I have given him even more grace than a lot of other people because if you think about this, he was a hot shot 5-star quarterback coming out of high school. And everybody thinks, man, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to dominate. That was why he decommitted from Oregon to go to UCLA because he was like, oh, I'm going to start as a freshman, get an opportunity. And then you get a cold dose of reality slapped in front of your face when your first game is in front of the muss at Utah and you throw a pick six first play of the game. And you're like, oh, my God, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am or this or that. And then it spirals out of control. And he knew he shouldn't have been starting at that point in time, but they didn't have anybody better. And then his mom had gotten sick too prior to the season. She had gotten they found out that she had cancer. That was tough. The situation at UCLA was tough. Chip, is he staying? Is he leaving? And then for the maturity of a kid to say, all right, hold up. I know I'm super talented, but I'm going to go somewhere where I can go sit down for a year. Because remember, there was a lot of people talking last year, oh, maybe he should start. There was a 0% chance Dante Moore was going to start last year if Dillon Gabriel was healthy. 0% chance. So he knew that he was going there to redshirt and to get better. So that level of maturity to humble yourself and say, I'm going to go sit down behind somebody who knows what he's doing and learn something. And then like that gives me hope that things can be better for this upcoming season. And then you have Austin Novosad, who is, by all accounts of the players and the coaches, if something happened, because I do believe that Dante will end up starting, that if something were to happen, that Austin Novosad, that you can go win a national championship with a kid like that. So Oregon is in a charmed position to where if Dante plays extremely well, then he's probably going to the NFL. And then you get Austin Novosad for next year. If not, then if Dante plays well and then stays, then Austin's going to bounce. But you still got a starting quarterback. So the Ducks are actually in a win-win situation there at the quarterback position. But I do believe that now on the other side, what happens if Dante struggles? Then I believe that one of those two quarterbacks will be a special quarterback. It's just a matter of which one, because it could be both or it could be one, but we will find out.
It's important to look at it from all those angles, and I do think that Oregon's in a great situation with their quarterback room under Will Stein. It's
Yeah,
just I'm so excited about this year because you're going from just a wealth surplus of experience with Bo Nix and Dylan Gabriel to a guy who is the greenest quarterback, you could say, the youngest quarterback, most inexperienced quarterback the Ducks have tried it out in a couple of years. And I
yeah.
don't say those to have it be like a negative label. That's just the reality of it. And I think some fans are maybe worried about it. I'm leaning into the excitement that comes with it because I've seen Dante Moore play at the All American Bowl when he was committed to UCLA, and I was like, my God, I wish this guy was still committed to Oregon because he can let it rip. And I think the thing that I wish I had a better answer for, George, and I don't think anyone other than those inside the building really have that good of an answer. What's the gap between Dante Moore and Austin Novosad? Because to your last point, like if he struggles a little bit out the gate, like how long of a leash does he get? You know, when do they turn to Novosad?
Oh,
Because
I
you
don't think
also
it's
have to
very.
manage that.
I think the leash is that it will be an appropriate leash, like that. Like they're not going to bail on him on the first sign of trouble,
No, no, definitely not.
but third sign of trouble, you could be in a quarterback competition at that point in time. Like, but I also would not be surprised either if you didn't see. Now, I typically don't like this to happen, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that you could see Austin play one of the first three games, like start one of the first three games either.
Sure.
Now, I don't think that that's how they're going to handle it, but that also would not be 100% out of the realm of possibility either.
Yeah, I think that should be in play. I mean, until you see the level of play that you want, and I think it's going to be a little bit tough to gauge outside of that Montana State game because that seems to be their best non-con matchup at the moment. Um,
I mean, no, it's got to be
well, I
Oklahoma
mean, I guess you
State.
could say Oklahoma State, but I don't feel like a lot of people are intimidated by Oklahoma State, and
Nobody is, but their roster is going to be better than Montana State's roster.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, I'm super excited to see how it all shakes out. I definitely expect Dante Moore to play well under Will Stein. I think there's going to be a lot of moments where we see the value of sitting behind Dylan Gabriel for a year come into play. But I also want to see what Novosad has in store if we do get to see a little bit of him on the field this year. But it is a transition period with that new quarterback coming into play, and the Ducks will go as far as Dante Moore or Austin Novosad can take them. Maybe Luke Moga gets a little bit of a run this year in some special formations. I don't know.
No,
Not as a starter. I'm not saying as a starter. I'm just saying it'd be fun to see him.
if yes, under the correct circumstances, yes. If we're up by like after, if Dante starts, Austin goes in, and then there's still time to get Moga in, then yes, that would be an appropriate circumstance. I can get behind that.
Yeah, yeah. So I just think that he's been an intriguing player to watch because people really were talking about his legs in that first spring
Dude,
game,
he
and
is
then
a hellacious athlete. Like, he's not a regular athlete.
but he can throw too. He can
Yeah,
throw too, and I think we saw that in the last spring game, this
yeah.
most recent one.
And I think that speaks to his development, because out of high school, I did not see it. I did not see it at all. But it speaks to his development under Will Stein and in this offense, that you saw what you saw in the spring game. Because my initial thing, I was like, oh, this kid will never play at Oregon. And after the spring game, I was like, he might be able to play at Oregon.
Yeah, that's why you gotta kind of wait and see and keep an eye on the development factor. Maybe we'll get into one more quick position group, George, because you said we got a little bit more time. How about the secondary, man? That's the group that I am easily by far and away the most excited about. I think that there's some intrigue at receiver, of course.
Yeah.
Obviously you have Decorium Moore. You have someone like a Jeremiah McClellan. We do want to see them take a step. Kyler Casper, Jaron Dickey. We can go on. But I feel like
Hey,
there's more
you didn't
returners there.
name one name that had a really good spring too, which is Cooper Perry.
Cooper Perry. Yeah, yeah. I've
Yeah.
definitely heard some great things about him, and I don't think he should be overlooked. It feels like the snaps are totally up for grabs. But secondary, I feel like aside from Dylan Thieneman and Jaleel Florence, like those are the only two kind of proven commodities that we have.
No, the kid
Or
from
Kingston
Northwestern.
Loba. Oh, Theron Johnson as well. You're right.
Yeah, he
Um,
was an all Big Ten player. So we got to give him some love.
No, for sure. I mean, he definitely deserves some good recognition. And he's someone that the staff is excited about, and they feel good about kind of some of the stability I think that he brings to that room. Landing talked earlier about how he kind of came in at a weird point in spring where they had already started, but he's grasped the playbook, and I think that that's a nod to his experience. But
Yeah.
I'm just ready for some of these young guys to get cut loose, whether it's Finney, Offord, Dorian Brew, Ife Obadegwu, Aaron Flowers. I think we're going to see more of Aaron Flowers, and then the
Yeah.
freak athlete Kingston Lopa.
Yeah, they are. I mean, he's like 6 foot. He's gonna look like he's 6'10", standing on the field. If you thought that, Addison was big, he's bigger than Addison.
Which is crazy because he was huge.
Yeah. So I am super excited about the secondary because the way the secondary looks getting off the bus in terms of just physically, it is significantly different than last year's secondary. There won't be anybody out there under 6 feet tall as a starter, probably. And you could have corners out there, multiple corners that are with, especially because they essentially are running like a 4-2-5 essentially. So you could have three DBs on the field that are over 6'2" or 6'2" and over, which is, I mean, it. And the best way to explain this to people why the height matters so much, because there has to be athleticism to match, because there are few human beings, few football players even, that have the athleticism to play corner and are that tall and long and rangy. So let's equate it to something that people do all the time, whether you're playing tennis or pickleball. When I'm playing pickleball, I like to get up to the net as quickly as possible because I'm a bigger guy, longer arms, big just in general. And it makes it appear to the other to the opponents like it's hard to find a way around. And that's the same way it is at DB, because you don't want to miss, because now 6 inches of missing that was just a breakup last year or a possible completion that might be going for 6 in terms of a pick 6 or just a breakup or anything else. So it's going to give you more opportunities to make plays and deflect balls and all those stuff just because of the sheer length that you have with the team now.
Yeah, it seems like it'll be able to cover more ground, keep pace. The speed, I think, is going to be increasing. A lot of these guys that they're adding, George did track in high school, so they've got some great speed to work with. The physicality is going to be better. I mean, that was even something we were hearing from the receivers that I talked to at the Oregon Football Media Day last month in Eugene. Just these kind of aren't the corners that they're used to going up against. So I feel like that group has an incredibly high ceiling. Talking about a guy like Theron Johnson, I think, as well as Jaleel Florence and Dylan Thieneman, helps raise the floor a little bit of that group for sure. But I think that Chris Hampton and Rashad Wadoud could be in for a pretty special year if all goes according to plan.
Yes, they could be, and coaches love these type of years because these are the type of years they get raises in.
Definitely. Well, any final remarks, George, before we wrap up the show today?
Nah, just that the expectations that we talked about earlier. Playoffs is the expectations. You can't assume that it will be 13-0 every year. Sometimes there will be some pain along the way. But we are getting closer and closer to a national championship, and it is going to happen one of these years. And sometimes it happens in the year where, like, you think that it's not going to happen, or you have questions, and then you find out that your quarterback is Trevor Lawrence and your defense is great.
There you go. Well, it's there's a lot of questions that we still want to get our answers to, but we'll get our answers before too long, George. That's because the season is right around the corner.
Woo.
Before we get out of here, I want to just make sure I plug your socials, George, and kind of what you got going on. The Unafraid show, great stuff. I got your Twitter here on the screen, but just anything else you want to talk about as far as what's going on your end.
Yeah, so I'll be on the CW this year doing college football pre and post game for if you so fashion to watch some ACC football, I'll be on there. And then also and then also go over to YouTube Unafraid show. All sorts of cool content coming out all year long. Interviews with people, with coaches, players during the season. Takes, if you want to understand, especially the thing I probably break down more than a lot of other college football analysts is the business of it, like understanding what's going on with NIL, the transfer portal, the house settlement, and all those things. Deep dives on all of that as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, guys, make sure you tap in with George wherever you're at. He's got a lot of great stuff. And come and see us at scoopduck.com while you're at it, because a lot of huge additions from Shannon Terry and the folks over at On3 Rivals. Top talent coming over, just making it more and more of a value to your subscription. And then if you subscribe to Scoop Duck, you get myself, Justin Hopkins, Steve Wiltfong, Chad Simmons, Pete Nakos. I mean, there's so many great journalists that you get access to. So I think that now is the time to be here. And if you want to find more of me, follow me at Torres Sports on all socials. Subscribe to the Scoop Duck On3 YouTube channel, and share the Ducks Dish podcast with everyone you know. But until next time, thank you guys so much. Thanks to George for coming on, and thank you to you guys for tuning in.